Before Jesus ever teaches his disciples to wash one another's feet, she washes Jesus' feet. The 12 can't seem to get it that Jesus is about to die, but she anoints Jesus for burial. Her act is extravagant beyond measure. We're not told how it is that she came to have this expensive perfume. How many years had she saved before she could buy it? What had she originally intended to do with it? Was it an investment, perhaps? Or was she awaiting some unknown special occasion to use it? Was it like a 100-year-old bottle of French wine that was stashed away until a moment came along that justified uncorking it? Whatever her original plans, though, the perfume is spilled out all in one fell swoop. Out of gratitude to this one who had raised her brother, out of this incredible sense of love she felt toward this man, as perhaps the only way she could think of to adequately say perhaps her last goodbye, she pours it all out, willingly expends it all in one great act of extravagance. Mary never speaks a word in the passage, but her actions bespeak a discipleship deeper than that of any of the others. And then there's Judas. Yes, Judas is the bad guy. He's even announced by the narrator in our reading as the one who was about to betray him. But he is also described as one of his disciples. Perhaps this is so obvious that I just never noticed it before. But despite what Judas will do, he is still called one of Jesus' disciples. He remains a disciple. Jesus rebukes him, but Jesus has rebuked Peter and others in similar fashion. The Gospel of John speaks of Satan entering Judas when he goes to betray Jesus. Judas will go from the light and be caught up in the darkness, and yet he is depicted to us here, despite that darkness, as one of Jesus' disciples. In fact, there are really only two disciples depicted for us, described for us in the reading this morning. One is Judas, this tragic failure of a disciple, and the other is Mary, who, though she is not a member of the 12, comes across in our reading as the ideal disciple. One who is totally committed to Jesus, who understands what is going on, and yet gives herself totally to him. All of us here today are disciples, or at least considering becoming one. We in some way have felt the pull of Jesus, heard faintly his call to follow him. And so I suppose that means that we are all seated at table somewhere between Mary and Judas. I like to think I'm seated a little closer to Mary, but my life with Jesus is not nearly so extravagant. And I can't help wondering about what it is that separates these two disciples. What is it that accounts for their very different behavior? There's all sorts of speculation about why Judas betrays Jesus. Perhaps it was simply the money. Others assume that Judas was trying to force Jesus' hand in some way, hoping that once Jesus was under arrest, he would employ his great powers to overthrow the Romans. But in either case, it would seem that Judas views Jesus as a means to an end, which makes him a lot like many of us modern Christians who hope that Jesus will give us our best life now or will get us into heaven. Mary, on the other hand, simply seems to be in love with Jesus. She gives herself to him with an extravagance that can only be motivated by love. Perhaps that love springs initially from gratitude for his saving of her brother. But whatever the reason, she has moved far beyond any calculations about what Jesus can do for her. And in love, in gratitude, she simply gives extravagantly. For a lot of people, Christianity is about belief, about morality, about doing good, about helping others. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But you'll never fall in love with morality. I'm not sure you can fall in love with a concept. But if we actually encounter God's love in the person of Jesus, perhaps we can fall in love with him and give ourselves to him with an extravagance that can only be born of love. All praise and glory to our God, who is love.